Good evening, everybody. Marhaba. Thank you for joining us today. We are delighted to have you with us. We want to thank you for your patience. We know that this event has been postponed twice, and this has been out of our control the second time. There was a snowstorm in Palestine, and so we did not want to take the chance of there being no internet, and so we felt it was safer to postpone. But we are delighted to have you with us this evening to this wonderful event, joining Riwaq for a music performance and a virtual tour in Jerusalem villages. What a privilege it is to be able to moderate. My name is Randa Abdel Fattah, and I'm speaking to you today on the unceded land of the Darug people. This land was never ceded. It is the sovereign land of the indigenous owners of this country, and I am delighted as a Palestinian to pay my respects to elders past and present, and to acknowledge the original owners of this land, and to pay my respects and to honor my father's homeland, Palestine, and to join you in this exciting evening today. I would first like to take this opportunity to thank and acknowledge the donors and the people who made this possible, and to also give you a rundown of our program this evening. I would like to thank the Cultural Protection Fund of the British Council, Doan, and the Arts Collaboratory for making this event possible for all of us tonight. I would also like to thank donors, the other donors who have made this possible, the institutions and individuals who have been such a support to Riwaq, the General Delegation of Palestine to Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific, His Excellency Mr. Izzat Abdul Hadi, a wonderful man and a great supporter and voice for Palestinians in this region. We want to thank APAN, Mr. Nasser Mashni, who I have to confess in Australia we would not be able to do most of our events on Palestine if it were not for the support and financial backing of Mr. Nasser Mashni. We want to thank Ms. Lur Awad, Ms. Caroline Fry, Mr. Greg Barnes, Ms. Shireen Hassan, Ms. Susanna Henty, Dr. Marjik Davey, Ms. Shane O'Neill, and Mr. Nasser Shakhtour. All of you, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for making this event possible for us today. So the program today, I am your moderator, and you are going to be in for an exciting evening. We have a presentation by the incredible Shabha Safi, who is an architect with Riwaq. We will have a tour in Jerusalem villages. Then we will have a presentation by the incredible, inspiring writer and activist and playwright, Dr. Sama Sabaween. And then possibly my favorite part of the evening will be an opportunity to hear from Riwaq's visionary founder, Dr. Suad Amiri. It was something that we wanted to keep a secret until now, and we can happily reveal that we will have the privilege of hearing from Dr. Amiri. And then we will open the floor to questions and answers through the Q&A function. So please keep those Q&As going, the questions going, and then we'll have some closing remarks. I want to emphasize that tonight, above all, we also want to thank the IT support. As you can imagine, Zoom, bringing an event like this together requires the incredible talents of our IT team, Abed Othman, Yusuf Taha, and Arc Media. And of course, the best part of the evening, the music concert by Al Kamanjati Association. Tonight is ultimately about fundraising. It is about trying to bring us together to support this incredible visionary organization. And of course, we know these organizations cannot run with just words and deeds alone. We need financial support. They need financial support, and we need to put our money where our hearts are. And so we implore you to please try and dig deep to support this organization, which is working to change Israel's attempts to change the facts on the ground, to preserve Palestinian through the preservation of the historic and, our historic heritage in Palestine. So I would like to first now introduce the amazing Riwaq organization to you. Riwaq is the Center for Architectural Conservation based in Ramallah. It was set in motion in 1991 when a group of enthusiasts came together in an organized effort to save historic buildings in Palestine through its main programs, the Restoration Program, the regeneration of the 50 most significant historic centers, and the Community and Cultural Program. Riwaq contributes to the production and dissemination of knowledge about heritage through its research and publications program, including the Registry of Historic Buildings in Palestine, and works in collaboration with other actors. She has been leading and working in different projects, including the rehabilitation project of Beit Iqsa, Hajja, Birzayat, and Qalandia. She is interested in cultural landscape and community involvement. I'll give it over to you now.
Thank you, Randa. Welcome, everybody. You hear me well? I hope you hear me well. And I hope we can manage with the technology. We wish we were with you, or you were with us in Palestine. So I will start by welcoming everybody. I'm extremely happy to be with you on this event. And I wish you and your families are safe and in good health during this global health crisis. And I'm very proud to present Riwaq to you today. But I cannot start before thanking and adding to the thank you that Randa did to our beautiful and amazing guest speaker and MC for today, Dr. Sama Sabaween and Dr. Randa Abdel Fattah. They are among many of Riwaq's friends and Palestine friends who continue to work and to contribute to Palestinian dignity and liberation. So I'll start by introducing Randa, because she's introducing everybody. Randa is a prominent Australian, Palestinian, Egyptian Muslim author. She's anti-racism advocate and Islamophobia scholar. She is currently postdoctoral research fellow in the Department of Sociology at Macquarie University, researching in the generational impact of the war on terror on Muslim and non-Muslim youth. Randa is also the multi-award-winning author of 11 novels published in over 20 countries, including multiple translations. Randa uses her interventions in the media, her writings, talks, and workshops at schools and writer festivals to address issues of identity, anti-racism, social justice, and human rights causes. We're very proud to have you and honored to have you with us, Randa. I'll start by sharing my screen. So I would also like to thank Hiba, because Hiba is the soldier and is the behind everything that we're here today. And the technical support, of course, Abed and Yusuf. So this is Riwaq. This is our building that we're based in. It's in Al Bire. Riwaq, as Randa also mentioned, is a Palestinian NGO founded in 1991 with the aim of protecting cultural heritage in Palestine. And this is our office. We're very lucky to have it. It's a historic building that we renovated and is based in. So despite the challenges and unpleasant facts that we face and live on a daily basis as Palestinians under occupation, I hope this event is cheerful and a window of hope and positive energy, because this is what Riwaq is all about. Speaking of hope and inspiration and great dreams, this is our inspiring founder, Dr. Suad Al-Amiri. Suad, as many other Palestinians, insisted to dream, to make a change, to impact, and to lead. And she will be with us today. In ordinary times, my presentation will focus more on introducing Riwaq's work despite challenges and lack of resources. So Riwaq managed throughout the 30 years of its foundation to document more than 50,320 historic buildings in more than 422 villages, towns, and cities in West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem. Riwaq's registry of historic buildings in Palestine is an open data source. Riwaq is aiming also to expand this work of registration towards and to reach out to the occupied areas and to cover all historic Palestine. Riwaq has also managed to create an alternative cultural infrastructure in the rural through the adaptive reuse of over 130 historic buildings to serve as premises for women associations, youth centers, children libraries, music centers, and more. I will show you some of the visuals of the magical transformation of such buildings. This is in Sabastia, a building before renovation, and this is after its renovation. It hosts a women association and a guest house in Sabastia as it's part of tourism trails. And you can see how the building is turned into a livable, colorful place where people can live and produce. This is in Jamma'in, one of the throne villages, Khalil Palace. And you can see it before renovation. And after renovation, it's hosting youth club, women association, and also weddings and social events. This is Jalboon in Jenin area, also a rare typology or a special typology building. And this is after renovation, public spaces, decent spaces for Palestinians to work in. And it hosts an association that has a twinning with a French association or a French village. So they teach French for kids, and the kids of Jalboon, most of the kids in Jalboon know how to speak French because of this center. This is in Asira Shamaliya near Nablus, and you can see this is a neighborhood. So after renovation, we clean, we provide decent spaces for people to communicate, to interact. And this is in Tulkaram. You can see the building. You can't see it because of the addition, the concrete addition. And after renovation, we removed the concrete addition and we uncovered the building, a beautiful building for Women Association in Tulkaram. This is Nuss Jbail. It's also a very beautiful mansion. And after renovation, it's hosting a fair trade organization that produces food and promotes relationship between farmers and market. This is الحوش العتم in Bir Zayt. حوش العتم means the dark courtyard. And after renovation, it turned into beautiful spaces for residency for Bir Zayt University, but also we have a residency inside the building. And now a library organization will be also using this space. This is in Gaza, Deir al-Khadr building in Deir al-Balah, and it hosts a children library. So after renovation, the buildings host Palestinian people, their lives, their community actions. And throughout this project, we also, Riwaq managed to create over 500,000 working days for Palestinian labor, artisans, and craftsmen in conservation and related local crafts. You can see the labor, the beautiful handicrafts and know-how, mural paintings, blacksmith work. So also Riwaq managed to bring life back to historic centers as a center throughout its 50 village project that focuses on the 50 most significant historic centers in Palestine. The 50 village projects include preventive conservation of historic buildings and fabrics, creation of public spaces, children playgrounds, infrastructure, and housing. You can see the village before the preventive conservation. This is Abwaini Ramallah, and this is after renovation. You can see the transformation of the spaces and the historic fabric into vibrant spaces where people can invest in and live in. This is Rantis near Ramallah. Also after the preventive conservation, you can see the historic fabric. And this is Dahriya, Hebron area. This is in Jamma'in. So Riwaq also managed to contribute to the knowledge production and transfer through its research and publication on cultural heritage written by Palestinian architects, historians, and researchers about their own history and heritage. And we are going to launch very soon our online sales for books. So it will be launched very soon. Today is a bit special as we face the challenging and very difficult 2020. We were all suffering and we're still suffering until today. And we have been disconnected from our social networks for a long period. I'm sure lots of you were planning to come and visit Palestine this year and were not able to. We could have been with you physically in Australia or elsewhere in the world, but we couldn't. So today, I allowed myself to share narratives and stories of humans and spaces from Palestine to you. My first story is about Abla al-Batta. Abla is a single woman from Hajja village near Qalqilia. Abla owned a historic building and a land adjacent to it. This is Hajja. Abla supported herself, her sister, and senior mother by working in agriculture and selling her crops to villagers and elsewhere. Yet she was living in rent and could not in any possible way afford for labor to restore her building. So instead, Abla donated the land adjacent to her building in exchange of the restorative work on her building. The three-room building was fully restored by Riwaq and transformed into a living room, kitchenette, and a bathroom. And she moved in with her mother and sister, saving the money that she paid for rent. The donated land adjacent to Abla, this is part of the building, was also, the adjacent land was also utilized by the village council as a public garden and playground. Abla is one of some 60 historic buildings owners. In several villages, Riwaq was able to closely work with on the concept of reciprocity, al-auna. We provided material and they provided labor. As a result, over 100 abandoned, deteriorated historic buildings were transformed into decent spaces and warm houses for Palestinians families to live. On another note, this was also our first collaboration with Mecca, the Middle East Children Alliance, to provide and create playgrounds and public spaces for children and families in the historic centers. In some cases, such spaces were the only ones in the whole village. My second story is about Muhammad from Al-Mazara, Abu Muhammad. Abu Muhammad started his journey with Riwaq in restoration site of Al-Mazra'a, Al-Qabliya near Ramallah. At that time, Abu Muhammad was unskilled and unskilled labor that basically worked from in removing and cleaning the sites and removing stones from one side to the other. Abu Muhammad was able to support his family and continued working on other restoration projects for years and years. The unskilled worker had been trained on traditional know-how and became a skilled worker, and then a craftsman, and then a master, a muallim. Unfortunately, Abu Muhammad had recently had a heart attack and didn't have the chance to continue his work. But if you visit any of the restoration sites, you will see his sons, especially Muhammad, who is a master stone builder today. Muhammad is one of hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinians that work and master restoration techniques today. And their major income comes from the field with pride and passion. During the lockdowns due to COVID-19, and for months, our workers were not able to access their work and thus lost their basic and main income. In solidarity, Riwaq was able to fundraise and pay salaries for over 32 workers in different areas until they were able to get back to their work. Many of you attending here today were generous contributors to this initiative last year. The third story that I'm sharing with you today is a story of a place that is very dear to my heart, a village called Beit Iksa, northwest Jerusalem. Beit Iksa, as the majority of rural Jerusalem, was cut from its home city, Jerusalem. This had led to fragmentation and had deep impacts on the demography, geography, and economy of such villages. For more than 6 years, Riwaq team had to cross the checkpoint leading to the village to reach out the site and work there. Many times we were not allowed into the village. Laborers and material were also not allowed in. Riwaq expanded its work on rural Jerusalem and insisted to continue this work through what we call the Life Jacket, the project of development and rehabilitation of rural Jerusalem. The project targets the villages northwest and northeast Jerusalem, such as Beit Hanina, Al-Jib, Qalandia, Kufr Aqab, and Jaba. The project aims to reconnect the fragmented villages and embrace their resistance through their historic centers, communities, productions, histories, and landscapes. The Women Association, this is also in Kufr Aqab, you can see. The Women Association of Bethesda is another story, as Riwaq highly believes in the role of women and their ability to change and create. 70% of Riwaq's projects are focusing on women and women empowerment. Local women associations and women-led projects were true partners and success stories that Riwaq is proud and continue to support. Such projects include food production, providing meals for locals, family health awareness, and vocational training. And we're devoting March to also have more focus on the success stories of women and to continue to support such initiatives. I can never talk about Riwaq without talking about Ramzi Abu Radwan and sharing his story. Ramzi was born in Bethlehem and was raised in Al-Am'ari refugee camp. As an 8-year-old, he participated in the first Intifada and became an inspiration due to a widely circulated photograph showing him poised to throw a stone at an Israeli tank. He lost his brother, a cousin, and many of his friends during the Intifada, like most of Palestinians. In 2002, he founded Al-Kamanjati Association, which you'll learn more about by Renda later on. The association was aims to bring classical music to Palestinian children. Riwaq decided to support his dream by renovating a number of historic buildings in Ramallah, Jenin, and Dir Ghassane. And this sort of relationship with Al-Kamanjati continues. Today, Al-Kamanjati musicians and staff, with our beloved Iyad Stati, the current director of Al-Kamanjati, to Riwaq's restored buildings and plazas, organizing festivals, performing for social occasions, and offering classes. Together, we believe that culture is a basic human need, that our historic built environment is the hub within which we truly embrace our cultural life. The last story that I'm sharing with you today, and I hope is my personal journey with Riwaq. This is myself back in 2007 as a 20-year-old architectural student. I was training with Riwaq in a site near Al-Taiba, and I'm very pleased to have Rana Shaka with me with us today, watching as we were training together. This training took place in Al-Taiba, and myself, as many other Palestinians, is a refugee. I'm displaced. I was born and raised in Ramallah. I have no access to Gaza, no access to Jerusalem, and above all, I'm not able to live in or access my village town, located 45 minutes away from where I am right now. So my father was imprisoned for over 15 years as a political prisoner, and myself, as many other Palestinians, were raised that we need to continuously work and do something for Palestine to contribute to our liberation and dignity. And we need to continue what our parents and grandparents did or still doing for Palestine. Riwaq was and still is the platform that I, as Palestinian, can ethically justify myself as Palestinian working for Palestine. Riwaq has changed my life and broadened the way that I identify and define resistance and dignity. I'm very proud to be today the director of Riwaq after 13 years of working at Riwaq. And I'm very pleased to have the amazing team of Riwaq believing and sharing the same values and beliefs that I do, and Suad do and does. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of the evening, the event, as I'm also looking forward to the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. It was inspiring and extremely moving. I was told that part of the last part of my address, my introduction, was missing, and it was the most important part, which was to remind you all that tonight, above all, is about fundraising. It is about supporting this amazing organization. So often we here, especially outside of Palestine, feel helpless. We don't know what to do. We don't know how we can materially change the lives of Palestinians, but supporting a grassroots organization like Riwaq means that you are supporting an organization that is working so hard to preserve the culture and historic sites of Palestine. And I can't think of a more important project for our liberation, something that we can do from afar. So at least it gives you a sense of contributing to something that has meaning and impact on the ground. So we will share with you throughout tonight links on ways that you can support Uruaq, and please do also continue to ask your questions through the Q&A function. So tonight we are now going to hear a wonderful performance by Al-Kamanjati Association and have a tour of Jerusalem villages. And I'd like to introduce you to Al-Kamanjati, which is a non-profit organization that offers music lessons to Palestinian children, focusing on children in refugee camps and in villages in the West Bank, Gaza Strip and southern Lebanon. It was founded by world-famous viola and bouzouki player Ramzi Abu Urdwan in 2002 in France. Its vision is to disseminate musical culture among all members of the Palestinian Society, to empower the creativity of young persons, make them aware of their Palestinian national identity. So we will have this performance now with a tour of Jerusalem villages.
Welcome everyone who's joining us today. We are Al-Kamanjati Association. We're performing here today in Qalandia village here in Palestine. Our music performance entitled Our Heritage and hosted by Riwaq. We hope you enjoy the performance and the tour, and many thanks to you.
للعيدي للعيدي داير ظلمه عليك ليلي جنة غريبة وهيني من الدمع جرة أصحابكم هالي ولي يا أهل الغريب وطلوعة بنيتكم وانكسرت خيلكم شدوا مروتكم وانكسرت خيلكم شدوا مروتكم ضليت أدور على جوات تلاقيهم حتى رماني الهوى في علانيهم ضليت أدور على جوات تلاقيهم حتى رماني الهوى في علانيهم ضليت أدور على جوات تناسبهم حتى رماني الهوى في مصاطبهم ضليت أدور على جوات تناسبهم حتى رماني الهوى في مصاطبهم مرمر زماني يا زماني مرمر مرمرتني لابد ما تتمرمر مرمر زماني يا زماني مرمر مرمرتني لابد ما تتمرمر مرت عليا شعرها التافه والبدر بيخجل من طلعته لو شافه قلت لها يا يمي والورد شفافه قالت لي مالك قاعد بتتحسر مرمر زماني يا زماني مرمر ورد عليا، قالت ما بقدر أحب غير الأسمر. مرمر زماني يا زماني مرمر. مرمر زماني يا زماني مرمر. مرمرتني لابد ما تتمرمر. Now I want to introduce the great musicians. On percussion, Yanal Stati. On Nai, Muhammad Abu Najib. And on Qanun, Adham Khamaise. And our great teacher and musician on Oud, Iyad Stati. And I'm Hinna Al-Hash Hassan. رمانك يا حبيبي يا حبيب قلبي ونصيبي. رمان خدودك فتح يا ريته من نصيب. رمانك يا حبيبي يا حبيب قلبي ونصيب. رمان خدودك فتح يا ريته من نصيب. رمانك هلفاني يا حبيب قلبي وداني. رمانك هلفاني يا حبيب قلبي وداني. رماني خدودك فتح يا ريته كان هناني. رمانك يا حبيبي يا حبيب قلبي ونصيب. رماني خدودك فتح
Oh, it was just absolutely beautiful. I'm sure you were all like me, feeling your heart has been stirred and your soul nourished by that performance. I think we can all agree that it is really something special to be able to participate in something like this and to be able to feel for just a moment that we are in Palestine, in its villages, and see and hear its beauty. Speaking of beauty, we are now going to hear from the incredible Dr. Sama Sabaween, and I mean that with all my heart. Dr. Sama Sabaween is an author, playwright, commentator, and wonderful poet who wages beautiful resistance through her art and her work. A recipient of multiple awards, both nationally and internationally, Sama Sabaween's theatre credits include the critically acclaimed plays Tales of a City by the Sea and Them. She is also co-editor of Double Exposure, Plays of the Jewish and Palestinian Diasporas, winner of the Patrick O'Neill Award, and co-author of I Remember My Name, poetry by Sama Sabaween, Ramzi Burad, and Jehan Besisio, edited by Dr. Vaisi Vlasna, winner of the Palestine Book Award. I welcome you, Sama, to address us all now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Randa. It's a real honor for me to be introduced by you. And you're absolutely right, that music and those slides and this performance and the magic of this organization is just incredible. I want to start off by really just thanking everyone for allowing me to be part of this very special event. And to reiterate that it's an absolute privilege to be sharing this platform with brilliant, inspiring people, especially the amazing Dr. Saad Amiri. Thank you so much for all the work that you do for Palestine and for all of us. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land where I live, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And I want to pay my respect to their elders past and present. It's really important for me to always begin with this acknowledgement. As I lend my voice to the cause of justice in my homeland in Palestine, I am constantly aware that I live on land where the indigenous populations still have no justice. I am aware that since the arrival of the First Fleet in 1788, massacres of indigenous First Nations were committed to wipe out their resistance and to eradicate their opposition. I am aware this land was stolen and has never been ceded. I know colonization. I know struggles for liberation. And I know this: Palestine will be free and this land will always be Aboriginal. The process of colonization, be it here in Australia, where it has gone on for so long, that it's taken an advanced form that is so subtle and so sinister at times. It's also going on over there in Palestine, where colonization is a little bit younger, it's raw, and where it manifests itself in walls and in checkpoints and in falling bombs and in erased homes and villages. The process of colonization, past and ongoing, here and there, demands a mechanism of erasure in order to allow the crimes to pass. Erasure of memory, erasure of history, erasure of artifacts, buildings, songs, and poetry. Colonization demands erasure, for how else can the colonizers assert their presence and secure their theft of someone else's land, lives, and resources? Successful erasure results in the colonization not only of properties and land, but also the colonization of minds. It aims to cultivate acquiescence, apathy, despair, surrender, and, most important of all, forgetfulness. It aims to wipe out memory, for nothing is more dangerous to settler colonialism than memory. The late Palestinian Mahmoud Darwish spoke of this in one of his beautiful poems. The poem describes all things in life that make life worth living. And in it, he highlights the important role of memory for survival, for joy, and for resistance. He wrote, "We have on this earth what makes life worth living: April's hesitation, the aroma of bread at dawn, a woman's point of view about men, the works of Aeschylus, the beginning of love, grass on a stone, mothers living on a flute's sigh, and the invader's fears of memories." This last line, the invader's fears of memories, speaks to the Palestinian struggle to safeguard memory in the face of daily acts of Israeli violence and aggression that aims to erase our history and our links to the land. Now, since the inception of Zionism as a political movement in the late 19th century, representing Palestine without its indigenous Palestinian inhabitants was a necessary trademark of the Zionist imagination. And by the early 1900s, the Zionist movement adopted the slogan, "A land without a people for a people without a land." This striking ability to see the land and not its people is not unfamiliar in the history of imperial wars and conquests. In fact, in Australia, a similar phrase was used to justify Australian settler colonialism and crimes against the Aboriginal people. The term used here was terra nullius, meaning a land that belongs to no one. And that was used as a legal framework to justify the British invasion and dispossession of the indigenous Aboriginal population. Palestinian society prior to Israel's establishment in 1948 was highly developed, commercially, artistically, and culturally. Palestine was actually a cultural crossroads of the Arab world, with prosperous trade and agriculture. Its economic development in the early 20th century was one of the highest in the Arab world. And its high school enrollment was second highest, with 379 private schools as early as 1914. Between 1911 and 1948, when Israel was established, Palestine had at least 161 newspapers, magazines, and other publications that it shared. It had close economic and cultural ties with other Arab capitals like Cairo, Beirut, and Damascus. It had a vibrant cultural scene with cinemas, live theaters, and musical concerts. It was alive with performances by local artists, as well as visiting giants like the Egyptian iconic singer Kulthum and Farid al-Atrash, the Lebanese singer. And all of this was disrupted in 1948, when Israel was established on the ruins of our Palestinian land and society. Now, it's important to understand the challenge that Palestine's thriving urban centers and cities and villages and all the above mentioned societal infrastructure presented to the Zionist narrative. It challenged their claim that Palestine is a land without a people for a people without a land. And it also challenged the Zionist myth that the establishment of a Jewish state in the heart of the Arab world is in fact a civilizing force. Now, how could the Western world accept this myth when the facts on the ground spoke different reality? And the answer was that the population in Palestine had to be reduced as much as possible through massacres and violent attacks and terror. And Palestinian cities and villages and historic sites had to be stripped of their identity. Erasing Palestine's cultural heritage was an essential part of this process. Israel erased more than 400 Palestinian villages, displaced more than 2/3 of the Palestinian population, stealing their homes, artifacts, furniture, books, rugs, and even the shoes that Palestinians left behind when they ran, forced to run for their lives. And that was only the beginning. For decades since, Israel continued its theft and dispossession of our people. And a major part of its battle was the one it waged against Palestinian memory. If the new Palestinian generation can forget the past, Israel can secure its loot. Now, the process of erasing traces of Palestinian culture, presence, and connections to Palestine took on so many shapes and forms, from assassinating or imprisoning Palestinian political leaders, artists, and intellectuals, to looting of the Palestinian National Archives and historic sites. But the ferocity of their attempts to erase was met with the tenacity of our people and their resolve to resist. We have withstood the test of time. And this event today is about restoration and hope and the strength of our ability to preserve our stories. Cultural items, heritage buildings, historic villages, they are more than symbols of the past. They are conduits to our history and our stories, without which we are lost. They hold and they restore our memories, feeding our souls and our spirit, and giving us strength and inspiration. It is for this reason that we must endorse the magnificent and brilliant work of Riwaq, with love for humanity, beauty and elegance of design, and grace in implementation. They shine a bright light, rolling back the horror and the ugliness of colonization. Every project is like a shield in the face of Israel's war on memory. I urge you today to be part of this process of restoration. Now, I often hear the question, what can we do to help? Today, we are presenting you with a clear answer. Invest in hope. Invest in resilience. Invest in restoring Palestine, and let us do the rest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samah, for your absolutely beautiful and poetic words, your powerful message. It really does speak to the heart, and it gives us all here an agenda for how we can move forward. If all of us can just even have 2 or 3 people that we can spread the word to support this organization, then we could feel that we have made a small difference to preserving Palestinian heritage. And as you said, making sure that we have a path forward, and that our memory is never going to be erased. So you can see here on the screen ways that you can support Riwaq. So please do so, and please share and spread the message so that we can all participate in our own small way from Australia in supporting this organisation. And now it gives me absolute great pleasure to introduce Riwaq's founder, Dr. Saad Al-Amiri. And please do, as Saad is speaking, please do send us your questions in the Q&A box. And I can assure you that any question you ask Saad is well worth asking, because she is sure to answer with her sparkling wit and the brightness of her personality and her fierce intelligence. So ask away, please. So Saad, Dr. Saad Al-Amiri is the founder of this wonderful organisation, a prominent architect, writer, community leader, and founder of Riwaq. Amiri and Riwaq have received several awards in architecture and restoration, including the Aga Khan Award for Architecture in 2013. Dr. Al-Amiri has taught at Columbia University, Birzeit University, and the University of Jordan. She is the author of several books, including Traditional Tiles in Palestine, Throne Villages Architecture, and Earthquake in April. She is also the author of the prize-winning book, Sharon and My Mother-in-Law. Many of Amiri's books have been written and translated to different languages. Her latest book, An English Suit and a Jewish Cow, about Yafa, was published in Italian. Early 2019, her book, My Damascus, was translated and published in Arabic and will come out in America in the spring of 2021. And just a little side note, I first came across Saad in Sweden, actually. It was my first book tour ever in 2005, I think it was. And I stumbled into a big theatre, not knowing that I was going to be in for probably one of the best sessions of my life, to a huge crowd listening to Saad talk about Sharon and My Mother-in-Law. She had that Swedish crowd in the palm of her hands, and you could tell them that she was a force of life. And so we welcome you, Saad, to talk to us about Riwaq.
Thank you so much, really. And Samah, you did a great job. I want to thank all the ambassadors. It seems that we have more than Izzat Abdel Hadi as an ambassador in Australia. Really, Randa, thank you so much. I would like to thank few people that have worked. You know, when I think of Australia, now we have 50 people listening to us. We have 50 ambassadors, and this is our pride. Our pride in Riwaq is participation, in having networks. And in Australia, there are many people who have helped us all through the way. I would like to mention Sonia and Hanna Karkar, even though they're not with us today, but we all know how much they have worked for Palestine. We have two Nasers that I would like to really thank, Nasser Mashni and Nasser Shakhtour, who have done a great work for us in the past. And Lour Abu Shushe, who is hopefully with us, who worked with Riwaq, and she's now in Australia. So we are very proud of our Australian chapter. Probably there are more of you than we have in the office in Riwaq. So don't underestimate what you can do. But today, if I want to celebrate a woman, actually, I want to celebrate a woman by the name of Fatou Bensouda. I don't know how many of you are following the head of the International Criminal Court that announced yesterday that they have jurisdiction over Palestine, over occupied Palestine. And she had made, I can tell you, this woman had made many generals in Israel tremble, still not knowing what to do with this woman. They have threatened her many times. They have boycotted her. Trump boycotted her many times. They have threatened her family. And she stood up. She stood up. And this is the power of women. Just before she's leaving office, she's really, if I want to do something today, I want to go out in the street and just print maybe zillions of buttons with her face. We should all celebrate her. Thank you so much, Bensouda, for what you did for Palestine. We all know. Why am I mentioning this? It means that we should never lose hope. Really, in Palestine, with the occupation, we always feel that this Israel is the strongest in the world. But there is always a moment of hope, and today for me is the moment of hope for Palestine. I would like to share with you my personal experience with Riwaq. Really, I am like you, a Palestinian of diaspora. My parents left their home in Palestine in 1948. We lost our house in Jaffa, and my parents left their home from Jerusalem and became refugees in Jordan. I grew up as the daughter of refugee family, and I had to remember or imagine Palestine from a distance. Thank God that I had Damascus in my life. It was the anchor of my security. You know, when you mention Palestine, we always think of loss. We always think of insecurity. I remember even when I was in Damascus, my Syrian family, when they ask me something and I say, my auntie takes me aside and say, Habibti Susu, you say A, not A. There was even an attempt to make us feel shameful as refugees. But really, for me, the most important day is the day I crossed the bridge in 1981 and came to Palestine with my camera. And I'm proud to say that maybe I have the best archive of Palestinian villages and homes that I did in 1981 that Riwaq has now. Going around, I saw the beauty of this place. Unfortunately, we have lost a lot of cultural heritage. But as Samah said, I came up across the bridge with a permit that is in Hebrew. I had no idea what it said, whether it allows me in or put her in prison or just send her back. But I carried that permit that allowed me into Palestine with a number of 420. 420 was a magic number that my father was always talking about. And that was the number of villages that the Israelis have destroyed between 1948 and 52 to erase us from this planet. And these destroyed villages were always resonating in my mind. And when I saw the 400 villages that still exist in Palestine with their beautiful landscape, I thought, okay, I have a mission in life. And that mission in life is to protect what is staying there, what we have, all that remains, in other words. So that's when Riwaq, we started Riwaq in 91. And I am proud to say today that if I have done one thing, is really to do an institution and not a dukkani. You know what a dukkani is. Dukkani is, we have many dakakin in the Arab world where, a person comes in and never leaves, And for me, I am very proud that I have been able to do an institution. I am sitting at home today, waking up at 10 o'clock, just appearing 5 minutes before this event, while Hiba and Shada haven't slept all night, and Abed probably, and Yusuf, the people who have done the work. That's very clever, no? To be able to reach to a point where other people do the work while you have done your share and you can just go away. So I always say jokingly that really the Arab Spring may have failed temporarily in some of the Arab countries or most of the Arab countries, but the Arab Spring started in Riwaq and succeeded in Riwaq because I stepped down as the director of Riwaq. And when they asked me in 2011, what your legacy, what would you like your legacy to be? I said two things. One is to have a majority woman architect in this organization and always a woman director in that organization. So I'm very proud to have Hiba and Shada and many other, not to minimize the role of other men in the organization, but I really think we women have to be given our space. They have taken a lot of space and we should push to take our space. So for me, that was the legacy. And, I always jokingly tell Shada, listen, Shada, I have stepped down, but I want you to know that when I am 93, I'm coming back to be the director of Riwaq. So sharing power is extremely important. As you know, presidents in the Arab world, most of the governors in the Arab world, they sit in a seat and never stand up. They're afraid that somebody will take the chair from under them. So I think the practice in Riwaq that we could have directors who just say, today we have a director, our ex-director, Dr. Khaldoun Bshara, has stepped down and he's an employee now in Riwaq, and he's very proud that he have done that. I don't know of any other organization, not only in the Arab world, but maybe in the world, that has this practice of sharing power. And a director does not mean a dictator. Maybe it was when I was there, but so I'm proud to say that sharing really. And the last thing I want to say again and again and again, we are proud of how many relations we have with Kamanjati, with Tamir, with all the cultural heritage organizations. When I arrived in Palestine, there was no cultural heritage organization except for Muslim and Christian Awqaf. We started Riwaq. Later on, the Hebron Rehabilitation Committee started. We worked with them together. Then Ta'awaz started their group for Jerusalem. We worked with them, with Beit Lahem. We are very happy to open up. We are not scared that somebody will steal our work. No, Palestine needs many, many, many Riwaqs. So we are really very proud of you being our partners today. And I thank you again and again for being there, both of you, Randa and Samah, but every participants on this screen and everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samah. I mean, Saad, for your vision, for your intellect, for sharing power, and giving us also a model that can, inshallah, be repeated in other situations and contexts. And really, you've set out a beautiful vision for us all to support and to emulate. So thank you so much for being that amazing leader that you are. So now we want to open to questions. Please do send us your questions. I'll just look through the box here. we have from an anonymous attendee, what were some of the main challenges that you faced with the renovation of these centres? I think, Shafha, that was addressed to you. So some of the main challenges you faced with the renovation of the centres.
Yes, thank you for your question. We face lots, spectrum of challenges, but basically the first challenge is really the lack of legal protection for cultural heritage, the lack of awareness. So we're trying also to raise awareness on the importance of cultural heritage, and the lack of resources. We have around 50 applications from local institutions that would like us to renovate, but we only can do 4 to 6 buildings per year, which means that we can, within our human capacity, restore more, but we don't have much resources. There's also the issue of that in Palestine, unfortunately, and due to the Israeli occupation policy, only 30% of the West Bank and Gaza areas are areas A and B, which means that we're not allowed to build in or expand our urban expansions or cities or villages within this margin. So that puts a lot of pressure. We have random urban expansions towards the historic centers. They're always threatened by sprawls and urban expansions. There's also the fragmentation of ownership. That's also another challenge. But basically, lack of legal protection, lack of resources, cultural heritage is not yet perceived as a priority. So.
And we have 2 questions, the same question, which is about the funding and how you survive. So where does your funding come from to do this amazing work?
Yes, thank you. Historically, we had major supporters such as the Sweden government, but lately, for maybe 10 years, for now, we have 3/3. 1/3 is that we apply for grants, any grants from British Council, from European aids that is targeting cultural protection or social development or socioeconomic development through cultural heritage. So this is 1/3. The second third is from the Arab Fund for Socioeconomic Development. It's based in Kuwait. But the third, which is the one that we are really trying to expand, is through individuals like you and us that really believe in cultural heritage and donate on a regular basis through local companies, local people, and people outside also that would believe in Riwaq's vision and contributes to the process. The issue that we're facing lately is also the conditional funds. So it cuts more of the funds that were also available for us to apply for. So we're also trying to expand the portion where people and individuals and organizations, local and international organizations, do support us to liberate us from such conditional funds.
Another question, Shafa, is did you manage at the end to restore Beit Iqsa?
Yes, we restored part of Beit Iqsa, a good portion of Beit Iqsa. We restored 3 buildings as housing and 1 building for women association and a library. And we created also public spaces and playground. So we managed to restore a good portion. And we also invested in land reclamation through agriculture, because it was also another way to protect lands from being, what do we call it, confiscated.
And I just have one question. You were in Australia, and I think because we're here an Australian audience, I think it would be lovely for people to hear about why you were invited to Australia and how you were collaborating or speaking with the architecture organisation in, I think it was Sydney. It would be nice to hear, so you can see that connection between Australia, recognising, an organisation here, recognising your work.
Yes. I was luckily invited to the Black Palestinian Solidarity Conference. Susanna Henty is with us here today, and I'm really very thankful for her. And so that was one event, trying to share similar challenges and similar fight for dignity and fight for liberation against colonization, and trying to reach out for what colonization means in Palestine, but also in Australia, and sharing stories with Aboriginals. So that was a very good platform for us also to exchange. And apart from that, we also were lucky to have Nasser Shakhpour with us, who is a very good friend of Riwaq and Suad, and he also managed to host me within an architectural Sydney festival. And I had a talk to architects and to communities in Sydney, as well as in Melbourne. And also Caroline was also another friend of us, who managed to have me on ABC radio station to share more of the stories of Palestine. We were planning to continue this sort of relationship with many friends. Shane is also with us here. Yet we were not able to put something together in 2020 due to COVID. We had also planned an exchange between students to host Palestinian and Australian students to come here and live in Palestine for a week or two, and experience what does it mean to restore a building and the cultural. So maybe we'll continue with intention to continue maybe later on during this year or the next.
Thank you. So I think there are no more questions. So that brings us to the end of this evening. It has been, I'm sure you all agree, an absolutely soul-nourishing, heart-filling evening. And I hope that you have all felt the power of this organisation and feel inspired to support them and be a partner with them in whatever way that you can. Here are some ways that you can support Riwaq. We want to thank all the institutions and individuals again who have been able to assist Riwaq and us put this together tonight for you. And we want to thank you also for your patience in coming along, after it was postponed twice. So we really do value your attendance with us tonight. Please do share and spread the word in whatever way and capacities that you can, so that we can continue Riwaq's wonderful work. And I think this idea of a student exchange is just absolutely magnificent. And once the wretched corona situation has died down, then we can hopefully start talking about ways we can facilitate that and use our platforms and privileges here in Australia to really get those student exchanges happening. So thank you all for your attendance tonight. And I leave you all with Assalamu alaikum and thank you so much. Thank you.